Cohabitation, marriage, protecting your assets, forget about that. There's an even bigger concern that you should be worried about when you move out to the Philippines. Stick around while Attorney Ken and myself discuss it.
I heard an interesting story yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
There's this famous or infamous vlogger in the Philippines who, in his early stages of being there, got into a relationship with someone too quickly and cohabited with her. And then he caught her texting to another man across the table from him.
Sounds familiar.
It does. And then he broke it off and made her leave, but she wouldn't leave. She grabbed the bedpost and just held it tight and couldn't be pried away until the security officer in the building came up and forcibly removed her. All right. That was an interesting story that ended well for you, Jim. But it could have ended very badly, and this is something that I have not seen talked about anywhere, but it's an issue, and that's called orders of protection.
Okay.
Now, here in the United States, I deal with orders of protection on a daily basis. I get new ones almost every week or every couple of weeks, and a court official. I asked, how many of these are fake, because I get so many of them that come to me that are just obviously fake, and I have the evidence. Fortunately, with most of them, I have the evidence to prove that they're a liar. But this court official stated that right around 50% of them are either made up or they are greatly exaggerated.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did a little searching around the web, and I found out that it is starting to happen in the Philippines, like it is happening here.
Okay.
So I'm going to bring up the law and the order of protection and just go through a few of the details. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. What we have on the screen here is Republic Act number 9262, and this is an act in defining violence against women and their children. All right, so this is the order of protection statute, except for in the United States here, there are usually two things that take place. One is the person who's alleged to be victim committing the violence can be arrested and criminally charged in criminal court. But then the order of protection is then issued and enforced in the civil courts and family courts. Okay. But this Philippine law combines both of them. All right. Now, there are some things in here. The definition of terms: violence against women and their children refers to any act or series of acts committed by any person against a woman who is his wife, former wife, or against a woman with whom the person has or had a sexual or dating relationship. Now, when it comes to abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, I think there's a special place in hell for those people, and I think any penalty they suffer for that is going to be well earned. There never should be a situation in which abuse could occur. But there's something in this law. There's something in this law that could be a major problem for foreigners.
Okay.
All right. So let's take a look at the definition. So violence against women and children refers to any act or series of acts committed by any person as his wife, or let's just say, are in a dating relationship, which result, I'm going down here to this other highlighted portion, which result in or likely to result in economic abuse. That's the danger area. So let's go down and approach that further. I'm going to ignore the violence part of it and just stick with the economic abuse.
Okay.
Economic abuse in this highlighted section refers to acts that make or attempt to make a woman financially dependent, which includes but is not limited to the following. So So the first thing that happens is that you make them dependent on you financially.
Hmm.
So if you bring somebody into your say, all right, you've got a lousy job, you're not making anything, or you're not, or you're being supported by your parents, you're living at home with your parents. Come in, move in with me, and I'll give you a higher standard of living, and we'll have this great relationship that will last for eternity. Um, well, isn't usually the intent and the promise to start at the beginning? Um, okay, so what you have done is you've made that woman dependent on you
Mhm.
and financially dependent on you. And even if she is working at a low wage, you may be making her dependent on you for a higher standard of living. So then the abuse, then this person who has become financially dependent on you, which includes but not limited to the following: withdrawal of financial support, or deprivation or threat of deprivation of financial resources, and the right to use and enjoyment of the conjugal, community, or property owned in common.
Mm.
Now, a possessory interest in a condo can be a form of ownership, but I don't know if the Philippine Supreme Court has defined possessory right as still property that's owned in common. So even if
Okay.
you rent that lease, you have that lease is called a possessory right of interest.
Mhm.
And so if she's sharing in that, I don't know if the Supreme Court of the Philippines has defined that possessory right as part of the property that's owned by the two of you together. So this here may bring that Article 147 and 148 into play, but it may not.
Sure.
Um, but this is what that economic abuse is the deprivation or threat of deprivation of the financial resources by withdrawal of financial support. Let's take this a step further.
Okay.
The dating relationship refers to a situation where the parties live as husband and wife without the benefits of marriage, or are romantically involved over time and on a continuing basis during the course of the relationship. It
Wow.
doesn't say it doesn't say that romantically involved over time has to be with you living together. It could be, it could be, and only the Philippine Supreme Court cases would be able to know and determine, and an attorney would know in the Philippines would know for certain whether you dating this person for years, maybe from the United States. And like I said, I don't know if this will apply in Philippine law, but it's something that expats need to consider and talk with an attorney about. But romantically involved over time and on a continuing base during the course of the relationship, could that mean that you're in America and you have an online relationship and you are feeding her regular monthly income? Could that possibly be a dating relationship? I think that's something to consider and something that should be inquired into. So that's a concern. So it doesn't necessarily possibly require that you actually cohabiting.
Hmm. Now, this is especially concerning because so many expats, when they do come over here, they're in this position where the girl works so much. They work long hours, they work 6 days a week, and they make very little amount of money. And many foreigners just say, hey, you know what? Why don't you just leave your job? And this way we can travel together. And, you're only making 10,000 pesos a month. I'll take care of that. I'll give you the money so you can help support your family. And this happens to a lot. So this could be concerning for a lot
Yeah,
of expats.
it can be concerned. Now, remember, this only comes into play if the relationship ends badly and
Right.
action is taken, and we're gonna get to that next.
Okay.
So this dating relationship, it can be cohabitation, but not necessarily. But only a Philippine attorney can state definitively if they know, and maybe there are no cases that have been taken to the Supreme Court. So your case, if you do this and it ends badly, could end up in the Supreme Court making precedents. And I certainly don't want to be wouldn't want to be a party whose case makes Philippine history in the courts.
No.
All right, so that's a concern about the dating relationship. Now let's move on down. And this is where the criminal aspect comes into it.
Okay.
Acts of violence against women. The crime of violence against women is committed in any of the following acts. And go down to E, attempting or compelling the woman or her child to engage in conduct which the woman or her child has the right to desist from or to further on. So, in other words, the woman has a right, because she's been living in that condo, she has a right to continue living in that condo, and you're putting her out. She doesn't have to be on the lease in order for her to have the right to be living there. Okay, now this is again something that I'm not positive about because it would require a legal opinion in the Philippines in order to know for certain. But it does raise the question. I'm here to look at the law and raise questions about the law and concerns for and guidance for our expats. And that would be, this is another place where they need to consult with an attorney in the Philippines. So does it apply to someone who's been living there, like this girl, let's call her Jane, the one that you put out. Let's say Jane was so angry at Gio that she decided to do something about it. Did a crime occur? Possibly. Okay, so this shall include, but not limited to, controlling or restricting the woman movement or conduct. And then the following describes that, and these are the ways they can do that. And number 2 is depriving or threatening to deprive the woman of financial support legally due her or her family. And when does it become legally due to her? It doesn't necessarily have to be a marriage or some other legal bond. The fact that you are supporting her and setting up this financial dependence is where it started from at the top. So it appears that this section is applying to making her financially dependent and then cutting her off from that. So depriving her of the financial support legally due her. You brought her in, you brought her away from her family, you brought her away from her job, and made her dependent on you. You have a responsibility to support her until you legally do not. And so Jane in this situation decided, and was talking to her girlfriends and decided something should be done about it, because one of the girlfriends say, hey, the best friend of the cousin of my aunt and got an order of protection. Why don't you talk to somebody about it? And they jacked up that guy really well. So Jane decides she wants to see somebody. So who does she see? We'll come back to that in a moment. And let's go down to barangay officials and court personnel shall assist applicants in the preparation of the application for order of protection. Okay. Law enforcement agents shall also extend assistance in the application for protective orders brought to their attention. In fact, there's a legal representation if the woman or a child requests in the application for protective order for the appointment of counsel because lack of economic means to hire a counsel de parte, the court shall immediately direct the public attorney's office to represent the petitioner on the hearing on the application. Wow. She gets a free lawyer and a prosecutor at that. Okay. So then, who may apply? The offended party may apply. Jane could apply. Okay. Her parents could apply. Other relatives in her family could apply for it for her on her behalf.
Wow.
Police officers could apply. She cries, big tears. Jane cries big tears to the police officer, and he could apply for her. The Punong Barangay, that is the barangay chairman. Yes, Jelly just helped me out there. The barangay chairman, or if the chairman is not present, it could be one of the council members. A therapist could apply for her. A healthcare doctor or nurse could apply for her.
Jeez.
Or get this, at least two concerned responsible citizens of the city or municipality where the violence against women occurred and has personal knowledge of the offense committed. Your neighbor could help her apply.
Oh,
So it seems like cohabitation and protecting your assets is the least of your worries. This sounds more concerning. And
it is, but there's solutions to this too.
Okay, let's hear.
Okay, but let's take a look. Let's take a look first at what the consequences are.
Okay.
Now, like I said, it combines both the criminal and the civil aspects into one. All right, so it provides now that Section 5E, which is what we just read here, this depriving or threatening to deprive her of financial means. All right, so 5E shall be punished by prison, correctional. That's prison. That's a level of penalty, okay. And so that level of penalty is 6 months to 6 months and 1 day to 6 years in prison.
Wow. In
a Philippine prison,
which is equivalent to 50 years in the U.S.
I think it was Racing that said it, or Filipino P or something said it was the second worst prison in the world. I don't know if that's true, but I think it could be possible. Mexican prisons are none.
I don't want to find out.
No, we don't want to find out. But I think that would probably happen for violence. But sure. the way courts work, and I know in the Philippines it works similarly, they can offer you something a whole lot less, or they will have, or the judges will have kind of levels of penalties. And sure. I think that level of penalty comes down to restitution. Okay. And so what the probable penalty would be restitution for actual damages caused by the violence inflicted, including but not limited to property damage, medical expenses, child care expenses, and loss of income, which could be the support, the value of the support that you gave to her, not only cash, but the value of her share of the rent and that kind of stuff. Okay. So in all probability, the result would be, if this was perpetrated, would be a transitional period or a period of rehabilitation to help her qualify. Might be require Geo to finish off her education, so that she could qualify for a job, or help her with some tutoring so that she could pass a civil service exam, that kind of stuff, and sure. to help support her at her usual and customary level through that process. So the penalty, in all probability, would not be that harsh, but it's not something that you want to do. No. Especially Gio, I know you make a fortune off of these videos, but yeah. And you're teaching. I'm just being cryptic and joking, jokeling. But there's a lot of folks that are there that are only living off their Social Security, and so that's right. $1,500 or $1,700. Supporting her like this and not having the benefit of the relationship could be devastating, to your financial status. All right, so and we talked about who can do it, and all they have to do is just go to two people or the barangay chairman, or it's easy to do. Right. So I'm gonna stop sharing here. So the question is, how do you protect yourself from it?
Yes.
It's what you did with Gang.
What did I do?
Yeah, it's what you did with Gang. I mean, you helped her, you trained her and taught her to vlog. You did a great job teaching her. You're an awesome teacher, and so you know, you have to have a reasonable plan. If the expat has a reasonable plan to help her restore to the level where she is able to support herself and be okay, whether it's an agreement, you help her move on and give her some money to help the family for a while.
Sure.
If you do things like that, or at least offer, and then if she storms off angry, you have to be able to prove this. So you need to record it, basically, if recording is legal in the Philippines.
Right.
Okay.
Now,
After caveat in it.
I would imagine that people should exercise a bit of caution if it's a new relationship, they shouldn't just be like, oh, why don't you quit your job? I'll support you. I think they need to be a bit more careful and slow the relationship down before you decide, okay, maybe you should quit and I'll support you.
Yeah. And there's one other part of that goes along with that.
Okay.
You should never move in with somebody in 3 months.
No.
It takes months. It takes I read a study one time that it takes anywhere from 7 months to a year of communicating for all the walls and masks to be removed, and you really see into her heart and find out the true depth of her character.
Sure.
It takes that long because people can live that role and that mask for such a long time that it can take 7 months to a year. I believe that study that I read, it can take 7 months to a year just to find out who that person really is deep into her soul, to her heart.
I believe that. Yeah.
So both of these things apply, but that's the easy way to solve it. If you're already in the relationship and it goes bad, just do what you can to help make the transition. And it should be reasonable. Think about it being reasonable from the perspective of somebody who might make the decision. Put yourself in the shoes of the judge, or put yourself in the shoes of the barangay chairman, of what would be reasonable to help her make the transition back to her own life.
Sure. Okay. Well, this is good information, and it's good for people to be aware of this, and maybe it will help them exercise a bit more caution. Maybe they will slow things down a little bit, and maybe they won't be so quick to say, hey, why don't you move in, or so quick to say, why don't you quit your job? So
I think as far as the 147, 148, the cases that are there just in the context of annulment, and could there be a case involving assets and assets abroad? It's possible, but I think that's the least of your worries. I'd be more concerned about how you treat her and how you break up, and how you break up is critically important.
Sure. Okay. Well, it's good information. So I appreciate Ken coming on and giving us this information. Stick around. There will be a second video with Ken where we talk more about cohabitation, marriage, protecting your assets, and also answer your questions that you left in our community section here at Geo in the Philippines. I did want to mention that the best protection you can do with something like this is simply vet your girlfriend very well. Don't move in with her immediately. Give each other plenty of time to get to know each other. Don't have her quit her job right away. Take things slow. As Westerners, we tend to speed things up, and Filipinos want to speed things up. It's best just to slow things down, really get to know who you are dating, and that's probably the best thing that you could do. So thank you guys for watching. I encourage you to share this video. This is good information to know, and others deserve to know it as well. So please share this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
take it real soon.